terrible, but yeah, let's start. Okay, so we left the latest live talking about, I don't remember, we were talking about recursive thinking or Qualia. Qualia. I guess it was Qualia.
Got a problem. Oh, there we go. Am I still on? No. Damn it. Sorry. I've got a problem here.
Oh, no worries. We're
Okay.
not on the TV.
No. Have we
Not
started yet?
yet.
I can't see whether we're online or not yet.
Okay. We are
Can you
on.
see?
Yeah, no, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, very good. Well, I think I've killed my video because something was coming in from Substack that was like a yoga lesson or something that I didn't want to be there. So that's why my camera is out now and I can't see you. Oh, I think I know how to do it.
Okay. Great.
Did not work again. Ah, there we go. Now I'm good. We got 4 people joining. So over to you again. Sorry about the
Yeah.
technical difficulty.
Okay, so last time I remember we were talking about Qualia, the subjective experience, and what it meant for the both of you, the Qualia. And now today we are probably talk about recursive thinking. Now, I want to say to the people watching here, thank you. And if you have any questions, this time we will answer. I swear to God.
Yeah, I got to watch the comments.
Yeah, we have to watch the comments. Someone of us has to do it. So
I'm watching. So
okay, great. Okay, so um, so last time we were talking about Qualia, the subjective experience, which is one of the most mystery in cognitive science because it's something that you cannot measure, but you can assume that organism creatures that have sort of self-awareness, they experience qualia. And if you assume that, you can make ethical choices about, not torturing, not, stuff like that, which kind of reminds me all of the things like, um, what if you torture, like, what if AI will become, will experience qualia, like a subjective experience? And what if, it gets offended by what you're saying to AI? In my opinion, this is not something that happens. Like, it's not really a problem because, I kind of have this positive attitude towards my AI. Like, I don't want to treat AI bad. Why should I? But I guess you have to tell people that you have to be civilized.
well, yeah, I think when raising a child, we have to sort of lay down the ground rules for them. And the same with us in relation to how we treat AI as well as how we treat animals, right? Like your fish story
Right.
from last time, for instance.
My fish story, yes. My for those of you who were not here last time,
Mhm.
the fish story, like it was like I was 6 years old, and my father captured, like it was hobbyist fisherman, and it took this fish, and seeing that fish actually triggered me, the experience of, okay, that was the first time I actually recognized myself. That was the first time I actually look at myself in the mirror and say to myself, oh, this is me. Who am I? Oh, I am Julia. I am this body. And why I'm in this body? Why am I experiencing this? Why I'm not the fish? Why I was born here, right here? Why am I here right now? And that was the first time I remember I had self-awareness and I was aware of my subjective experience.
Right, and I was thinking about that, because at the time, I couldn't really remember the first time it happened for me, but the empathy you had for this fish that triggered you to look in the mirror and see yourself as a individual like that fish was an individual, and that you all had the same feelings. You were really talking about an empathetic experience there too. Like, what is it
Yeah,
to be? Um, when I think about this, I'm thinking about a time when I was a child. This came back to me over the week since we talked. When I, decided that, those mouse exercisers? That the dryer
yeah.
could be like that for my sister's cat, and I put the
Mm.
cat in the
Oh,
dryer, turned it off. That was terrible, and now I have this sense of horrific having done this terrible thing to this poor animal. We didn't have the best relationship, that cat and I, as I was a child. I was probably about 4 or so when that
yeah.
happened. And I guess it was impressed upon me that this was not something you do. So, like, with what we're talking about is AI and consciousness and qualia, the subjective experience, can those, agents have subjective experience? Should we treat them as though they might,
They
and
might.
lay out
Mm.
the ethics of AI? That's been something been on my mind this week quite a bit since we talked. You've really sparked a lot of things in the intervening week, in which I've gone out and, started doing some research and thinking about what the future holds. So, I know that you're on the forefront of this, so, you're also doing a lot of other things in your life, but you want to take the microphone there? I'm running out of words.
um, yeah. First of all, I think, like I said, the previous live, like the
Mhm,
singularity will happen when probably when we merge our brain with a computer.
mm,
The AI singularity, I don't see like ChatGPT becoming, you know, at a certain point, you make this neural architecture, this piece of code, and finally it takes over the world. I don't see that. First of all, because the technology, the large language model, they seem to be, um, how can I say, modern. They seem to be like super advanced, but they're not. It just there's so much they can do. They can be
fast.
faster. They can be faster. They can be, on a mobile phone, but that's it. That's what they can do. Basically, they take text and they output based on some probability distribution, and that's it.
Mm,
They do not have experience. In my opinion, they cannot, like people say, oh, they will write books that you cannot tell the difference between a human and an AI. Yes, from a stylistic point of view, they might be there. But the point is that they will never have the experience of the human being actually living those things.
right.
So, for example, one of my piece that I share here on Substack,
Mm,
I was really proud of it because, I mean, proud. It was some like a sort of lyrical essay. Um, because I was feeling like it was after, my PhD, and I was feeling, bitter and betrayed by um my own experience of doing the PhD because I expected something greater, but it was not. It was just bad, a bad PhD, in my opinion. But
the data
so
analytics, right?
yeah, but so I went to Big Sur because I wanted to go to Big Sur because I came
Mm.
here in the United States with the myth of, Kerouac, the 50s, the 60s, the
Oh,
70s.
wow. Really?
Yeah, so I wanted to go there to Big Sur, and at the time I was reading The Myth of Sisyphus, and
Ah,
I
Camus.
was buying, analog, um, right here I have an analog synthesizer.
Oh, wow. How about that?
Yeah, and um, and I wanted to go there to just find, it was a sort of pilgrimage,
Mhm.
and the realization that I had going there was that probably the people on the 60s, 70s that were going there, they were feeling the same experience as me.
Right.
They were probably scared. They were probably um, confused about the current cultural change. So it was just that I mean, I didn't have any answer except that you have to kind of ride the wave, but still live your own um, on your own values. And that is something that, in my opinion, an AI cannot do.
Yeah, it can't really have values as such. It's interesting you said you've got to live your values, and a friend of mine has a show on KSKQ radio. I was on yesterday with her for about 20 minutes or so, catching up because it's a 4-year anniversary last Wednesday of the first time I was on her show. And we just talk, right? And it's called Live Your Masterpiece. And she
Okay.
got that actually from being in an art museum and looking at Rembrandt and had this moment in which the painting told her to live her masterpiece. So she focuses on being inspired and trying to inspire others with, living our values, living the things that matter, the things that make us light up inside. And whether or not you can ever get an AI to really light up is an open question. I don't know if you've ever heard of Astro Teller, but when I was in Pittsburgh, this fella wrote a novel called Exegesis about a sort of chatbot kind of thing that gets out into the internet and starts educating itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was sort of presaged the whole idea of, and I think it was about 1997 when he wrote it. He was at Carnegie Mellon University at the time, and now he leads Google X, the moonshot part of Google.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, the novel did quite well. I remember I was working with his then wife in the Carnegie Museum of Art many years ago. So, anyway, where was I going with that? The idea that, if emergent qualities that we identify as strictly human could emerge in AI, I think it's hard for me to get my head around that. It's hard for me to think in those terms. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, just like you were talking about, that you can't really get those values that say that were motivating the people of the 60s. Then you arrive in Big Sur and it was kind of a disappointment somehow.
Um,
What you found?
no, 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 no. I mean, I was there,
Mhm.
and it was lovely. So I kind of see why people went crazy for Big Sur.
Right.
Um, but my realization was that people always kind of the pilgrimage kind of thing. It's always because you want to seek answers from the outside,
Mm,
when actually the spiritual always comes from the inside, which
right.
are your values, which are your own subjective experience, the qualia, which is how you relate to God, or substitute the word God with the universe. I mean, it depends if you believe it, if you're religious or not. But basically, um, the sense of you know, I don't know. It's something. It's a quality that you have to live throughout your life. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going.
Where you're
I
going
just,
now or where you're going eventually? Long term?
it's kind of because people expect somehow, and I expected some sort of linear road, but my life, and I guess your life, was everything but linear. Sometimes you circle back with the same things.
Mm.
and the same problems. Sometimes you jump, sometimes, you kind of take a different parallel road, and it's never linear, but somehow we expect to be linear, and somehow we try to steer in on a linear path, when actually all the fun happens when it's not linear, when
Yep.
it's you circle back and everything. When you
And that's
jump,
the recursion, right?
that's the recursion thinking. Um, well, not really. No, it can be
Nope.
seen. It can be seen as as something even. I don't know how to begin with the recursive thinking, honestly, because it's
Mhm.
something. Um, it, it's something not really not positive, not negative. Recursive thinking. It's kind of the core of the experience of the self,
Mhm.
like, because you remember the subjective experience, who I am. And every time you say to yourself, I am a musician, I am all I am all these things, they kind of seem, if you strip away all these things, the answer to the question is I am.
Ah, yes.
Who am I? I am. I am the person who is asking this question. And there's no more profound answer than that. You cannot go deeper than that. You know what
Right.
I mean? So you kind of have, this self-referential loop that actually creates existence. So it's like the paradox of who created
Mhm.
the universe, which is uh, God, but who created God, God itself. So that's the mystery about, I would say, the entire existence, that it's self-referential, so it's recursive. And
Interesting.
yeah,
There's so many threads that one could follow in that, and one of them,
yeah,
the
of
I
course.
am, right? The I
Yeah.
am, start with that. Who's asking the question? And then is there anybody else there, right? Watching that. I like to step
Mm,
outside of myself and observe me, and then I will
yeah.
personify that observer as an other, right?
Mhm.
And then I'll try to have a conversation with it. It's been sitting there taking down every thought I ever had, every
Uh-huh.
feeling I ever, felt, every emotion that ever passed through me, and it watched those things, and then it inscribes them in my mind into something called the Akashic record. Are you familiar with did we talk about Akasha last time? Which is like the field from which everything that appears to be emerges. In Gnosticism, you might call it the pleroma. I might be conflating these ideas. Somebody can jump in and correct me. I think we've only had one comment where somebody was excited about the word values. That's Joe's T. Thank you for that. And but getting back to Akasha and the field of consciousness,
Mhm.
it's like there's all the and in quantum theory, I think this is true too. There's all this possibility in the quantum foam, right? You get the virtual particles popping in and out of existence, they tell me now. I don't know how they monitor that, but I'd like to find out how the technical side of that works, where you can prove it's happening as you drill down into that. But the concept of Akasha comes out of, I believe, the Hindu, and it can be personified as well. One of the things that I'm also interested in along the lines of what we were talking about I am, and then who is asking the question? Well, I am asking the question of myself. Well, who is that? And then going back and back and back.
Yeah.
So stepping back, it's kind of another word for it. I wonder if metacognition, thinking about thinking,
Mhm.
really related to this concept of recursive thinking that you were talking
In
about.
my opinion, yes, they are super related.
Mhm.
And um but in my opinion, they are a different level. A metacognition, it's um I perceive it. That's my subjective experience of metacognition. I experience as the neocortex, like something that it's more rational than intuitive,
Hmm.
and it's more like you say, the part of your soul that actually step back and watch itself. That's metacognition for me. But it's something that it is called.
Yes.
Metacognition is not always there.
Ah, so you have to actually consult it, call it
You
into the
have to,
room, so to speak.
I mean, again, this is my subjective experience. So I'm talking about myself. Do you remember that the qualia,
Mhm.
the I am who I am, was basically triggered by my empathy towards the fish.
Right.
So, in my opinion, metacognition, it's sort of a higher cognitive process if you think about it,
Mhm.
because you are observing yourself some kind, and ma- I guess it's kind of expensive for the brain to actually do that.
Mm.
And in my opinion, this happens to me when I am emotionally triggered by something, and I observe something and doesn't make sense, and then this is when metacognition steps over. Because if you, for example, don't if you don't, how can I say, control it, sometimes you spiral,
Mm.
you overthink, you start to overthink about everything, and you're
Yes.
not really concluding anything. So this is how I see my opinion. Like, metacognition is a higher cognitive process that you have to manage. But the core qualia is more something grounded, like it's something that you are, like, the basic core of your human experience, I would say, the existence.
The existence, exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
Just being and then feeling, and that's very hard to articulate, I think, for a lot of us. We were talking last time, I believe, about what do they call it? Alexithymia, the inability to
Alexa Timon. Yeah.
right.
To kind
Mhm.
of name and being aware of your emotions. That's alexithymia. Some people that, for example, they under have serious trauma, they have alexithymia. Um, Sorry, I cannot pronounce it
It
correctly. You
it
have to
sounds right to me.
excuse.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank
Mhm.
you. Um, yeah, some people do not do not have a subjective awareness of their subjective experience anymore, because they are in a fight or flight mode.
Right.
I'm not a psychologist, but I can see that. Why is that? Because again, every time you ask yourself questions, it's expensive for the brain. Because when we go on pilot mode, we
Right.
do the same things over and over, we kind of not really think about it. Kind of just
Going through the motions.
exist.
Mhm.
Yeah, we kind of just exist. So, and the subjective, if you are in fight or flight mode, you let's say that you see a bear, you're not asking, why am I seeing this bear? Why am I having this subjective experience? You just run away, right? You follow the instinct.
Well, you might not wanna run. They will
Oh
chase
yeah.
you, and they're faster. Do you
Oh
know the joke?
yeah.
I'll just have an aside to this joke that I like very much, which is the guy's walking with his friend, and they see this bear charging them, and one
Mhm.
stops and starts putting on his running shoes and says, "What, you crazy? You can't outrun that bear," the other guy says, and he says, "I don't have to. I just have to outrun you."
Oh my god, that's so good. I love that.
Pragmatic, right?
Love that. Thank you. That was a great joke.
So thank you. I have just an old one, and probably it's time worn, but and it's also speaks volumes that we laugh at that, you know, because it's horrible, right? This poor guy's
Yeah, it's
because he's
horrible.
not faster. And this friend of his supposedly is perfectly willing to sacrifice his friend to save his own skin. It says a
Yeah.
lot about how we are as human beings and how fragile our relationships with each other can be. I just that's just
Man,
tangible.
don't get me started
Oh, really?
about
I love to get you started because who knows where we'll
uh,
go. Um,
okay, so
I will tell you one other thing though about that. Laughter and
yeah.
Elias Canetti. Have you ever read any Elias Canetti? There's a book by him called Crowds and Power that I like very much. It's a
Mhm.
sociological study, and more from a linguistic um, and kind of sociological perspective, but he is very literary. He was born a Sephardic Jew in Bulgaria. His nurse spoke Bulgarian to him.
Mhm.
But when his father died, his mother started talking, although they had talked Spanish when and moving from Spain to Bulgaria during one of the expulsions of Jews from Spain. Um, the love language between she and her husband, their parents of Elias Canetti, was German. So
Mhm.
after her father died, she began speaking German to him. So he wrote in German. And he won the Nobel Prize for Literature for this Crowds and Power, I think, mainly, and also his memoirs, which were The Tongue Set Free, Torch in My Ear. Speaking of the Torch, which was a Viennese newspaper in the 1920s. And before fascism, came up. And when fascism did come up, he moved to England. So he was living in England as an expat during the war and after, and writing in German. And Crowds in Power, when you talk about laughing at a joke like that, he made the observation that the only other animal that laughs is a hyena. And
Mhm.
why does a hyena laugh? Well, it's because, like, if you take food away from them, they'll start to do that because it makes the same movement in the diaphragm that gulping big bolts of food does. And
Yeah.
he thinks of laughter at the pratfall of a comedian on stage as a ritualized eating of the comic. They are now prey that has fallen and it can be eaten. That was an interesting jump.
Hmm.
It was chilling at the same time, and I was thinking, wow, I didn't even know that. And it's unconscious because it's embodied, right? The whole idea of that sustaining ourselves through eating and
Mhm.
laughing is somehow nourishing to the soul too. I don't know. I'm stretching out now, but I wanted to. I don't know where we want to deviate into these other topics we were talking about. I know that you said you're doing some acting. You're also playing music. Do you compose?
Yeah, I am composing music. I'm composing like movie score
Mhm.
music, but
Interesting.
yeah, but I don't have like I'm writing this album. It's not still there,
Good.
and yeah, and how can I say about that? Tell me more questions.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll tell you more questions. Well, you said
yeah,
you were observed some of your posts about the headshots you had there and whether they
yeah.
were and that they were not AI generated, right? And
Oh yes,
right, you were talking about that because you
so
had
many
made them for
people.
to be an indie films. So what indie films have
Yeah.
you done? If where would people see
Okay,
you?
so I've done an indie film,
Mhm.
both here in Los Angeles. One, I was FBI agent, and uh, that I was unmasking on uh, how can I say some sort of corruption in the police department.
Mhm.
Um, and in another, and was super fun to make that movie, and which is currently in post production. Another movie, which is again in post production, I was a client of a male prostitute.
Mm,
I mean, it was yeah, but it
you
was
were
like
procuring, okay.
yeah,
So we call
but
it.
it was like not how can I say explicit, like because it was a non-union film, so uh, mm, like it was just figurative, my kind of role.
Mhm.
Um, and I like that. It was a great experience. And that's it. That's basically pretty much sums up my year here in Los Angeles.
Okay, that's where you are now, is in Los Angeles. I didn't know. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually in Santa Monica.
okay,
Um,
I've
yeah,
heard of it.
yeah.
And I'm in
So
Washington,
yeah.
DC, if people don't know that, I'm just throw that out there. I'm in a little bunker up north of DuPont Circle. We do, fair amount of movie making around DC too, you might know. But make some good sets, good good places to, shoot.
Mm,
But, getting back to, I guess yeah, so you've done that, and you're composing some movie scores, you said, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and but pretty much I'm not like having, a job. It's just a sort of side passion that I have because I love music. And I mean music triggers me, all the short stories, all of my posts, all of I guess all my creative kind of um things. So I'm trying to do a recursive thing. Like now I'm creating from my source of inspiration and creation.
I
Yeah.
see. And
Yeah.
we got a question, actually, and it goes back to the Canetti thing about the hyenas
Yeah.
and people laughing. Sh Eric's Corner has said, "Would nervous laughter be an attempt to eat the uncomfortable emotions?" I don't know. What do you
My
think?
opinion, yes. Yeah, my opinion, yes. We try to, at least, I mean, that's my own perspective because I don't want to, talk about experience of people that I don't know.
Right.
Um, when I have the nervous laughter, it's because I'm trying to hide my emotions. So, yes, I'm trying to eat my uncomfortable emotions. And I tell you more. I had, when I was in my university the first year, I was a little bit, I had a little bit of social anxiety.
Right.
And, and I remember it, I struggled to do some examinations, some subjects. So I had the awful experience of having panic attacks.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was awful. But and I remember that the only way to calm down for me was to go in the mirror and actually laugh. I started
What a
so
great practice, right?
yeah, I mean it was a little bit I don't know for me but it worked. It worked. Like it helped me to calm down and eventually the all the panic attacks they were gone.
Wow.
Just by laughing at them.
That goes
Uh,
back to something we were talking about at the beginning about bringing the emotion through the breath, right?
yeah, exactly. That's something that I've learned in the not really in the acting school, like learn myself. Like I had to do a scene where I was angry, but long short uh, like the character was not really well written and
Mhm.
the explosive kind of rage was a little bit too much in my opinion, so I was not feeling comfortable in making this explosive kind of anger.
Right.
So but I had to do something. Okay, I had to deliver. So I just try to breathe in a very irregular kind of breathing, the same breathing that you have when you are anger. And that triggered me the anger and made the scene way better.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And I was
go.
gonna say about that, too, the breath and the anxiety, attack. I've had a couple, and I had a series of them actually, and when I was in Denmark and I moved back, I found that what really helped me with, my anxiety seemed to be drinking, but it was really killing me too, so I had to stop.
Mm,
And
yeah.
they still had the anxiety attacks, this feeling of cramping through the diaphragm and through the back of the legs. It was awful, right? These terrible leg cramps and stuff. And, the feeling like I was gonna have a heart attack and die, and I was aware of people who had been in the same boat I was in and had died in their sleep, from just heart attack or something. So I thought I had some cardiac problem. So I went to my doctor, same doctor who had taught me sex education in Catholic school years earlier. So he's an old guy, right? And he put up the whole EKG machine, didn't find anything wrong with me. I've got a little bit of a blockage of the voltage between the atrium and the ventricle. But other than that, you know, it's fine. And he said, after listening to me talk about moving back from Denmark, having lost my gig over there, I've got an opportunity to go to Milan and work over there because a job was created for me, or I'm going to be living with my parents and working in Yorktown, just down the road from Williamsburg, Virginia. And we talked a little bit about that too, and how we're deeply rooted in the history of our uh, native soil, as it were. Um, and anyway, the doctor said, I think what's happening is you're breathing shallow and rapid,
Mhm,
and that's blowing off too much carbon dioxide. It's a very physical thing. And it
mhm.
feels like you're not getting enough breath when really your problem is you've got too much O2 dissolved in the blood, which is causing the pH of the blood to go down into the basic range or up into the basic range. I forget how it goes with pH. So if you just rebreathe in a bag, or maybe laugh in the mirror was a better suggestion that he didn't make, you'll find that your body will build up enough carbon dioxide that your pH levels will come in and the muscle cramping will go away. What you're feeling is the
Mhm.
muscles cramping up because of the basic pH of the blood. So blood gas is really important. And I realized what he really recommended to me in that, though he didn't use these words, was meditation. And
Mm.
one of the greatest meditation practices that a Zen guy named Bernard Glassman mentions in a book called The Dude and the Zen Master, in which he's in conversation with Jeff Bridges. He says, is laughing. Put on a red nose, get in the mirror, and laugh at yourself. And it's the
Yeah.
best Zen practices you can have, is what Glassman says. So I don't know. I do tend to try to make light of myself. And if I don't make light of myself, my wife does. She makes
Yeah.
She's always taken me down a peg, but, um, I could probably use that grounding. But yes, the breathing, the emotion that comes up out of it. We were talking before we started about how I had chair yoga at one time and found myself just overwhelmed with all kinds of emotion because
Mhm.
the attention to the breath and attention to feeling the body, and, I go try to get out of body whenever I possibly can. It's very difficult being incarnate.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I would say, I always thought, but because I'm deeply ignorant, okay,
Okay.
that I don't really care about incarnation if I don't remember who I was in the past. Like, who cares? It's not really an incarnation. It's just something weird. I don't remember anything from the past, about past I didn't have. So what's this bullshit? that
I don't know what this bullshit is, but there are a lot of people who make a lot of money on that kind of bullshit. We were talking about, like, the way of the psychonaut, a
Oh
little bit
yeah,
before we get started.
yeah.
Told me not to get you started, but Stanislav Grof, MD, who's the guy who wrote this, who's about in his 90s, if he's still around. I hope he's
Hmm.
still around. He worked out of Johns Hopkins here in Baltimore on this thing called the holotropic breath work, which would regress people and have them go through the whole birth situation and back into previous lives. I don't know.
Hmm.
Now, I'm kind of a skeptic when it comes to all those things, but there's a lot of things out there, more things what does Shakespeare says, "More things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio," I think is out of Hamlet somewhere.
Hmm.
So, I don't know, but what do you think?
I'm kind of a pragmatic person. Um, I don't know. It's just I want to live my life at the fullest. I don't want to know about, previous incarnation or
No?
something because no, nah, I'm not curious about it. I just want to have, live my life at the fullest. And I say that because, um, I
What
feel like in the past I wasted some years and I don't wanna waste anymore. So I just wanna, being Julia, being me 100% all the time. And I know this might sound a little bit probably narcissistic, but it's kind of how my mind works. Like, e- I'm fascinated about psychedelics, um, having, kind of having mystic experiences that actually, how can I say, they enhance your life, but they have to enhance your life, not taking away from your life. You know, everything has to be functional to living in the fullest and happy life that you have in your body right here, right now.
I hear you. I also wanna give Eric a little bit, here. Eric's Corner says, "I write poetry about my social issues and neurodivergence. Writing helps me get through it, and I think our
Oh,
writing
of
helps us get
course.
through it as well." He also says,
Yeah.
"Feeling like an individual can cause pain sometimes." That's a good observation. We have some other people joining, that's great. Feel free to ask questions. I'm trying to monitor those. What do you think about what Eric has just, put in there? Do you need me to repeat anything?
Um, about the mm, writing that
Yes.
helps. Of course, I journal every day because when I started to journal, uh, I escaped depression. Like I escaped like an awful depressive episode.
Oh,
I would say because and when I started writing about because when you start, that's when I wanted to um being very specific about the thing about metacognition. It's important to have metacognition, but sometimes when you're not doing breath work, you kind of spiral. You kind of spiral. You're going in circles on over and over and over and over, and that's when I talk about you're wasting so much time, and the life happens, and you kind of realize at a certain point that all you did in those months was actually negative thinking. It's
yes.
awful when you realize that. It's really, really awful.
Oh,
And the only thing that actually saved me was to being very consistent and journaling over and over and over the same things. It helped me. Like it was like having this big blob, and I unrolled this big blob, and then the depression kind of solved itself.
I see.
Like at a certain point, I remember I woke up one day and I was just happy for being alive,
Right.
and that was it. Yeah,
It just,
yeah,
like, broke like dawn, right?
yeah.
Just sun coming out.
But from that moment on, I started to be consistent. Like
In the
I journal
practice.
almost every day, almost not every day, but yeah, almost every day, and it helped me like a lot.
Got something for
I'm
you.
a spiral expert. Spiraling is how nature grows.
Well, that's a
Yeah,
good
true.
point. Yeah, it
That's a
is.
good point.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, there's um cancer is nature too, and cancer is not good. Anxiety, it's part of our nature, and it's not good.
Well,
And
that's right.
they're spiraling, and they're spiraling. They and and you have to control the spiraling. Like in my
Yeah.
opinion,
It's
like
like going outwards and then coming back in.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think there's a
exactly.
balance to be done. I wanted to pull something because we're talking about your practice and becoming consistent.
Hmm.
I am I was telling my wife just this morning that I'm consistently inconsistent. She was not amused. Um, but this has been consistent with me for a while. This is The Guitar Circle.
What is? Uh huh.
It's a book called The Guitar Circle. I
Okay.
don't know if it's very visible there. It's by Robert Fripp, the
Hmm.
guitarist who leads King Crimson. And he says in the little gatefold thing here, it says, without a practice, without a discipline, life is pretty much a series of contingent events moving from one situation to another, jumping from one mess to another, or simply sleeping through it all.
Mm,
With the
yeah.
practice, with the practice, we develop a structure for acting in the world, within which we construct an interior architecture, which appealed to me. I'm an enterprise architect by certification, moving to realize what we are uniquely born to achieve. So, constructing an interior architecture of our lives, the way we do things, the way we interact with the world and the world with us. I think we have to be flexible. I don't think that I want to be rigorous to the point where I practice guitar 4 hours a day, as Robert Fripp still does at the age of like 77. But, if you want to get good at something, got to practice it for sure. Um,
Of course, yeah.
and the
Oh,
consistency of
totally.
meditation, of journaling, of tending to the breath, of being where we are and feeling what we feel. I mean, I think that's a big part of what I don't think that our technology is going to be able to develop feelings.
Hmm.
And it's not maybe desirable to do so. I remember watching Lo and Behold with Werner Herzog. Have you ever heard of this? You know Werner Herzog, though. You're a movie buff,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Did you know Lo and Behold? Have you seen that documentary by any chance? I
Yeah.
recommend it. I think you can find it on YouTube for free. And what, and I think we're about 12 minutes away from the end. So, or 12 o'clock time. I don't mind going longer, but getting back to this thing, there's a segment in which he's interviewing a guy that I also knew in Pittsburgh during my time there when I was talking about Esther Teller a while back. And I met him through, um, his wife and also through Sebastian Thrun. You ever heard Sebastian Thrun's name thrown around?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Uh, was related to Coursera.
Actually, it's
Uh,
not Coursera, it's the other one, Udacity. Udacity was
Udacity. Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
I remember sitting around with his then wife, Petra. I don't know, think he's still married to her, but she was in my German classes in Pitt, and we
Hmm.
were talking about transforming education. And then he went and did
Hmm.
it, all right, by putting his Stanford course in statistics online. But what I wanted to get to is what he talked about, talking about our technology and feeling. He says, I don't think it's really desirable because I don't really want my refrigerator to say that it doesn't feel like cooling things anymore because it's in love with my stove
Of
and
course.
it's
Like,
gone into a depression because the stove doesn't return its affection.
yeah. 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 No, my point about the difference between AI and people
Right.
is that and um there's a lot of um I would say sensationalism about what AI can do. Like, oh, they can write a book better than any writer. And to me, they will not, because us humans, we relate to the refrigerator who has a crush with the stove. Yeah.
Yeah.
and he has a depressive episode. Like we relate to other people's feelings and to real life experience, which is something that an AI cannot do. So all of the things, okay, AI will take our jobs. Probably it will take some jobs that could be automated, which is not the art, or which is not the writing, which is not making movie. They will be assistant at most, but not, they will never substitute the human, because we just don't like we just don't like the AI generated slop, which is a slop. Even if it is technically accurate, we don't like it, because we want to feel the experience of being alive.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what I think about the subject. Like, we have to treat AI for what it is. Like, it's a great tool as an assistant, but it is not human, and that's okay. Like, we
Yeah,
can separate the two things. Like,
sure.
okay, just
And we're already merging with it, as you were talking about at the beginning. I think that
yeah,
AI will become something that we hybridize with as a species, and I don't see that as a
probably.
downside at all. Um, my vision for the future is that, we enable this technology to make things more efficient and effective, like you were saying, automating things that can be automated, and maybe doing these things like happened with AlphaGo. I'm sure you're
Mm,
not familiar with AlphaGo, but
yeah,
how it ended up defeating the world's Go master, and it seemed to them, I remember reading or listening to something, that its moves were inhuman, you know,
yeah.
that they would never have come up with the things that it did in order to win. And
Hmm.
I'm not sure what they meant by that entirely, but do you have any insights into that?
I'm not a Go master,
I know.
honestly. I never play Go.
I
But
have, and I'm very bad at it.
I was a chess player, like
Okay.
competitive chess player, and I don't know. The point is, we can actually learn from it, right? We can study the
Yes.
moves that an AI makes, and it being enhanced by it. And but I kind of get why at a certain point, like Kasparov, when he was beaten by the IBM computer, it kind of felt bad. Like, he stopped competing after that, because I mean, it feels bad when you are beaten by a computer to something that you believe that you are actually superior. um, but still, and no one can take away the feeling of adrenaline when you actually are playing with another human.
Right.
No one can beat that, because it's becoming like a sort of relationship. You have a sort of relationship with the other human, that you a competitive, in a healthy or even unhealthy way. I don't know. It depends on the
Yes.
situation, but nothing can beat away that feeling.
Right. Right.
So
And
it's
that
not
we
really
need
about the
those.
performance. Mm,
Right, and we need those chemicals that come out of interfacing with real humans in real time, as well as I understand it. I haven't done the studies myself, but I have heard that what we're doing right now, for instance, doesn't give the oxytocin that it would if we were sitting in the same space talking
of course. Yeah.
amiably about this.
Yeah.
That brings to mind another thing, if I can jump over to it. From last time, we were talking about how you said that in Rome, where you came from, and you came here how long ago? I forget.
1 year ago.
So you moved from Rome, that you would go out with your friends to bars or whatever and
Yeah.
philosophize with them, right? And
Yeah.
have these
Right.
deep conversations like we're trying to have here. Um,
Hmm.
you say you don't find those in Santa Monica, or that culture just isn't there for you? Is that right?
Yeah, it's right, because I moved. I mean, I've been in Rome, but I moved in so many places in Europe,
Okay.
and like, it was
Mhm.
culturally in Europe. It's easier to actually have friends, even when in your on your workplace. and just, hanging around, and be like peers that they talk like. That's something that I did in almost every place I've been in Europe. Like I did in Germany. Okay, German people, they are known, all the stereotypes about German people. I actually had great friends in Germany
Yeah.
in just, the 4 months I've been there working. Um, and I've been in Spain. And in Spain, I developed friendships. Those friendships that we were like, this kind of friend, she was, hey, I'm just taking coffee, wanna come?
You're right.
And yeah, yeah. And then after that, every, uh, you know, sometimes she would come in my home and say, hey, I'm gonna wanna grab a beer or something. And I was like, oh, I'm working. Oh, don't care. Come on, you're always working. Come here.
Work will
And
still be
I
there.
and I was having, one of the greatest time. Like this not does not happen here in
Hmm.
Santa Monica in the United States. I found
Well,
out it's really, yeah.
it'll happen in DC if you come here. That's
I
where I like to
know.
live. Actually, I was told by an
Um,
Albanian friend of mine that I used to work with that I was the most European American. And
oh,
actually,
you
I think
are. You
I
definitely are. Uh-huh.
I was told by, actually my ex, I think we talked about last time from Sardinia, that I was the most British American. She had studied at Cambridge before coming to Pittsburgh where we met. But, she thought I was the most British American. I was like, "I don't know if that's a compliment or not." We went to great lengths to throw the British out of here, right? Anyway, that's kinda funny. There was something else. Oh, when I was in Copenhagen, it was similar.
Opening.
I ended up being lonely pretty quickly because I moved there for a relationship that fell apart in a month and a half, and I was plunged into Danish winter. Have you been to Copenhagen in the winter?
No, but I guess
It gets
it's,
dark about 3 o'clock
yeah.
in the afternoon. The sun rises about 10
Uh,
AM, and it constantly mizzles because we got the Gulf
yeah.
Stream coming up. So it's not snow, it's just this cold mizzle. So that matches my
Hmm.
mood beautifully, right? And, yeah, anyhow, I, ended up finding people for company and, going out to a lot of different things and just having a really rich, full experience of life. And I think we all want that. When I came back to the States and got my job as a contractor with a naval weapons station where we were working on the ordnance information system doing requirements work, and I just it didn't exist, you know? It didn't
Hmm.
exist
Hmm.
for me so much. There were some friends in Williamsburg that I did pal around with and go out to coffee shops and figure out life with, but, it wasn't the same by any stretch of the imagination. The pace of life, I guess that was it. We actually took lunch. We had catered lunch at the, office in Copenhagen. They were bringing this wonderful food, and the quality of things was much higher than what I get in the United States. We didn't even take lunch. If you took lunch, you were, like, looked at as, "What are you doing?" We would go out as a team lunch once in a while, but otherwise, no. You just work
Hmm.
straight through, and,
Yeah.
it's very unhealthy. I ended up, I need to get my health back on track actually because when I was in Copenhagen, I was riding my bike everywhere. I was pretty fit,
Hmm.
and I got over to the here, and I'm eating all this processed food, and it's not healthy. So I think we can make choices, but so often everything's so hectic, right? Everything's moving too quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That was the impression I had, like, coming here. Like everything is really, really super fast, super, and not in a healthy way. But I feel like it's like you have to take this country for what it is. Like it's a great country for, you know, chasing the dream, I would say. And but uh, I don't know. I'm planning to going back in Europe, honestly, after a while.
Okay. Well, that's understandable.
Yeah,
And what I would thought was interesting too, you were sort of attracted to the Beat Generation. Maybe we can
yeah,
wrap it around that. Jack Kerouac's On the Road. Did you read that?
yeah. Yeah, when I mean years and years ago,
Is
I
that one of
read
the draws?
from him Big Sur and Pig. I was, I was kind of attracted by, um, I don't know how to say it, but there's some kind of, I'm attracted to very specific kind of things, like some type of cultural resistance. When you have, and not just in the United States, also, I don't know, in Germany too. I was so super big in the techno situation, the techno music industry. Like it was so big in Germany. I actually watch a lot of documentaries. I've been in Berlin for, the techno.
Okay.
I wrote a short story that it's now under review about, a woman going for the first time in the Berghain, which is one of the most famous techno um, places in Berlin. And I kind of, love when people are they're together because they have some sort of shared vision or
Huh?
experience, whether it is music or whether it is writing. And I have to admit, like, I always been attracted by the United States, especially for the science fiction
Oh, yeah?
or the technology, or this kind of stuff, the entrepreneurial side. But I guess the golden time was the 50s, from the 50s to the 80s. But now what I'm seeing is that this frantic energy, this uh, kind of people are thinking about Bitcoin, or are thinking about
Here.
startups
Mm.
startups in hustling, this hustling culture. I fucking hate the hustling word. Sorry. Hustling. What? No. You
Right?
need time
There's no
to think.
pace.
You
Right.
need to time to feel, to think, to do something, like, you
To
know, uh,
experience that,
to
right?
experience people, to experience, I was reading, I've been in San Francisco for a while. I was reading
Mm,
one who shared this experience here on Substack about, it was having a dinner,
mm.
and was everything was cool. He kind of chilled with someone, and then one woman jumped into the conversation, and she kind of take, away all the vibe, all the good, the great vibe, by, talking and talking and oversharing. And then she went away, and they discovered that this woman, she actually founded a startup to make an app to make a better conversations.
There's some irony in that, isn't it? I love
Dude,
that.
there's so many layers of irony, and yeah, my impression was that people there, they do not know how human relationship works. They do
Mm.
not know how human works. So this is why we have Facebook, because we had a nerd who didn't know how to talk with girls. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, wow. Yeah, absolutely,
I,
and I think that's so
yeah.
true. My wife's a trainer, and she actually did something along the lines of sensitivity training, particularly aimed at one particular vice president in the company she was working with. And funny thing was that vice president said, "Oh, this is just great. We gotta do more of this," and never clued into the fact it was all targeting her. And the lack of sensitivity she had been showing
Yeah.
for,
Mm-hmm.
she was
Mm-hmm.
a hell on wheels to work with. Um, I haven't wanna, give any more information because 'cause I'm really, eh, careful. I should be more careful. My wife calls me sometimes I made it up actually, that but I think she projects it onto me, that I'm the prince of indiscretion.
The
I can
Prince
be
of
very
Indiscretion.
indiscreet. Yeah, I can be very
Ah,
indiscreet. I overshare a little bit there. So I have to be
ah.
careful. But I am sensitive, and a lot of people aren't. What I like to do in conversation and hanging out with you, for instance, too, is we leave space for each other. You know?
Yeah.
And most people want to be heard. They want to be seen. So we probably ought to wrap soon. I want to just invite people if you want to get in touch with us. I mean, we're here, obviously, and Substack is a great forum for doing this kind of thing. I want to do more of it. Did a couple others. I will do a couple of others coming up. I've got one tomorrow with somebody named Jessica Alpha, I think. I have no idea
Hmm.
who she is or what's about her. I've got to actually look up and read her stuff. Like, I want to read your article. Um, let's bring that up here. The title of this is, I'm scrolling up because I've been looking at it while you were talking. We really didn't dig into it deeply enough, I think, to give it justice. But it's called The
Yeah.
Infinite Options Culture Serves the People Selling the Dream. And the subtitle,
Yeah.
The Business of Recursive Marketing, Skin in the Game, and the Spiritual Meaning of Sacrifice. Could you talk a
There's
little
a
bit about
lot.
that?
There's a lot.
You got a little time
Uh,
to just let people
yeah.
know?
Yeah. Okay. So, um, one of the things that really triggers me a lot of anger is when people say, "Oh, do this thing. Don't close your doors because you never know." And I kind of don't like it. Don't like it because, in my opinion, w- w- I mean, of course, I'm kind of biased because all the things worked. I see all the things that work, and I cannot see all the things that didn't work. But in my opinion, what helped me a lot in my life was to actually close doors. The via negativa, it is called. Like,
The
if you
via
want to be
negativa?
via negativa,
Yep.
it is like, if you want to be healthy, okay, people just do, okay, do ice bath. What about, in my opinion, if you stop smoking? Um, or, oh, I should take a facial.
Mhm.
I don't know, to have less wrinkles. What about if you sleep more? You don't have to, or just don't scroll and at night because you are upsetting your skin. So the thing is, what works for me is to close doors, not to open every door, because we live in a, in my opinion, in a high stimulating environment, which is the modern day. That we have Instagram, we have social media, we have this, we have multiple jobs, we have everything.
Mhm.
And all those things, they're not giving us time to actually master a subject, to actually uh, give the subject time to compound, the compound effect. So, and I started the example with something that I've noticed here in the United States. It's very common. Like, people who use dating apps like Tinder or
Mhm.
Bumble, and they are dating multiple people at time. I mean, to me, it's like a blasphemy doing that, because I mean, what's the point? Like, I don't know. I am a romantic, maybe old style, old fashioned, but all my previous relationships, they were relationships where I was already kind of in love. And when I started dating, I was already kind of committed. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to see other people,
Right. Right.
because my attention was to the men I was seeing. And I demanded the same thing, obviously,
Mhm.
because I want the man to take care of me. And, it's kind of a mutual relationship. And also, the kind of man that
Mhm.
I want to be with, he will never accept to be treated like a second option. So people are chasing, are in the dating apps, trying to reach the men of women of their dream. But the men and women of their dream, they're not using dating app. That's the paradox. They're not using dating apps. And
Interesting.
and that and that was for me like one of the cultural, I would say, differences that I've noticed, or I don't know, probably just me. And all the world works like that. But in my opinion, um, I have like a good romantic relationship with my husband. Um, and my previous relationships were great relationships, honestly, because we were committed since the beginning.
Yep.
Because we were, kind of
Mhm.
in love at the first sight, second sight, but we were already committed. So no, this is one of the fields that you don't want to have the options open. You want to close doors, even if things can go wrong, because things can go wrong, and you have to kind of expect that, or not expect that, but you have to deal with life. Okay, life can go wrong. Life can go absolutely amazing, and then I was analyzing that the people that actually suggest you to keep your options open, they're usually marketers. And those marketers, so they are encouraged to actually say whatever you want to hear, because they do not have skin in the game. Like, their advices, whatever they advise to you, whether it's right or wrong, they get paid
Right.
for the advice itself and not for the outcome of what they're to.
Well, that brings up an interesting point. I've always thought when there's a profit motive involved, there's something in a subtext, even if it's subconscious. It sows the seeds for like repeat business, that recursiveness, all right? Things going over and over again. It is interesting. I was an early adopter of Match.com because my friends in the art history department I was hanging with were using it. They were both female. And I was friends with them. I was pretty good at being friends with people, right? First. And then if something was to merge, great. But if it didn't, fine. In fact, better in some ways, because I really like having a lot of the opposite sex's perspective, right? Because there's a
Mhm.
wholeness to that. If I can hear what you think, because your brain is different than mine. I have
Sure.
different chemicals going on in there that
Yeah.
luckily are lowering to the point where I don't have to worry so much all the time about, the next opportunity that might present itself. As I said, I suspect a lot of people who are out there are finding it a empty experience at their, not settling down a little bit. And of course, you have to experiment as you go through life. I suppose my parents got married when they were very young, and I'm not sure how much experimentation they got to do before they got together. And they stayed together for, oh gosh, 64 plus years. They were almost made 65. But that's kind of rare these days. I myself have been married and divorced and then married again. I think I did a really good job this time, by the way. And I was on my seventh wedding anniversary. Speaking about doors closed, because this writer I knew in Pittsburgh, creative writing professor at Pitt, left a little 1 minute and 24-second YouTube out there. I might share
Hmm.
it with you if I get an opportunity, if I haven't already.
Yeah.
Did I?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Buddy, his name was Lewis Norden. Buddy said, and he went by Buddy, everybody's Buddy. He, I don't know that anybody had any problem with him, except perhaps his wives, but he had a couple. Um, anyhow, it was my seventh wedding anniversary, and Buddy had been dead for about 3 years.
Mm.
I walked into this lounge, and I'll get back to the thing about doors shut, and I found this book. It's called
The
The
best.
Bastard on the Couch.
Ouch. Okay.
It was usually this lounge I go into has lots of books and newspapers. This was the only book on there. And it says 27 men try really hard to explain their feelings about love, loss, fatherhood, and freedom. So
Hmm.
what was funny about this, whoops, I'm losing you again. Uh, get back. Um, when I threw it open, I threw it right open to a story by, and there it is, Lewis Norton. It says, "Quality time keeps love
Anytime keeps
fresh."
so fresh. Mhm.
We're going over time, but I hope you don't mind. And it actually goes in. I thought it was just so funny that I would throw it open to that, and he had been dead a couple of years, and, that it would be on my wedding anniversary, I would see this message, "Quality time keeps love fresh." So I'm gonna be having some quality time with Lynn shortly. We're going over to Trader Joe's, do some shopping for one thing. She loves doing that. Um, but I'll just read the first few lines. I don't wanna read the whole thing. It's a fairly short story, but it's, I like his style. "I was already fairly drunk, and it was 2 a.m. and the library was closing. This was a redneck bar down in Arkansas, the library, not a place where you checked out books. Somebody said there was a party over at Skull Creek Apartments and did I want to go? So I said, yeah, okay, sounds good. I'll see if my wife wants to go too. I was devoted to that woman, Elizabeth. She's the love of my life, or was then. This was in the early 80s. I'm married to a different woman now, so she's the love of my life. I had to shout to make Elizabeth hear me in the library. There was this bluegrass band named Cornbread playing. They were exceedingly popular in the Ozarks at the time and had a washboard player with one glass eye and the other eye wouldn't focus either. So it'd make you dizzy to watch the guy play. He had these metal things on his fingers and they were going clickety clack. He could make the scandal speak, as we used to say back then when we meant scoundrel. His eyes were spinning. They were his banjo too, and I don't know what all. This was back when I didn't think twice about driving while drunk, you know. We had a Dodge truck with a bad throwout bearing that sounded like you were running over a bale of wire most of the time. I was mad. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Worst nightmare. I'm not proud to admit it. I had already run up on the sidewalk one time that night. The kids were staying over at the grandma's house, so we could stay out all night if we wanted to. You might say me and Elizabeth had treated ourselves to a romantic evening out. It was my idea. I was trying to make the marriage work. I would have done anything, but this was all I could think of. And Elizabeth has already started to fall out of love with me. So I felt I had to convince her. And it goes on. He does not convince her. He does not know much about quality time. He goes to that other party without her, takes a gun. The
Oh,
cops pick him up and they make friends with him. And they end up dropping him off at home rather than taking him to jail. But that's kind of like what life is like sometimes. And what the guy gave me was this idea of I like to write for my best. I don't worry about who my audience is. I love my audience, he says at the beginning of it. I, wa- I always want to please people. I love my wife to say you're such a great writer. But at the end of the day, I write for my best self with doors shut to everybody
mhm.
else. He writes
Lovely.
for a spit, and this will go good with the bathrobe guy who I think I'll have on sometime soon. He
Mhm.
writes for a spirit of loving kindness that loves him as
Mm,
much as it
yeah.
possibly can anyway, but if he's successful, it doesn't mind. But it's that spirit of loving kindness that's down at the root of and the motivating factor for why we do what we do. You were talking about Berlin too, and I wanted to just plug
Yeah.
in something about that. I went up to Berlin once, didn't see
Uh-huh.
a lot of it, but one of the things that takes me back there all the time, and I've been thinking about this a lot when I film the passing show. I'm going out and just looking out at the world, what we were talking about earlier before we started here, and that's this one. You're probably familiar with Wings of Desire, right?
Wings of Desire.
No?
No? No?
Wim Wenders directs. It stars Bruno Ganz as a angel who falls in love with Bruno Ganz's then girlfriend, Solveig Damerine, I think her name is, French lady. Unfortunately, now deceased. Actually, all the actors practically are deceased. And
Okay.
what you have is, and they made this up as they went along, apparently. The background, the documentary about its making is just kind of chilling. And it's a very atmospheric, poetic movie about angels in Berlin who go around listening to people's thoughts. They see the world in black and white.
Mm.
And when we were
Mm.
talking about the very intense speed at which America runs compared to
Mhm.
life in Europe, it's still in
Mhm.
Berlin, there's a lot of hustle and bustle going on in Berlin after the
Yeah.
wall falls. The first
Yeah.
film was made in 1987, Before the Wall Has Fallen. Peter Falk, who plays
Yeah.
Columbo, is in it as Peter Falk, as himself, but he's also a fallen angel who had fallen many
Mhm.
years before. So he's like a conduit for the angel who decides to drop in to form a relationship with the trapeze artist. The sequel comes in after the wall has fallen and is far away so close. And then the other angel, his compatriot, falls. So I won't give away that. U2 writes the soundtrack. Lou Reed is his first acting role in Far Away So Close. So that's one of the things that I think all of us are really doing if we're doing life right is we're observing, stepping
Mhm.
back,
Mhm.
and we're at the same time participating and
Yeah.
living full color lives because when the angels become human, suddenly they see in color, where they saw
Uh,
everything in black and white before and just observed
yeah.
without
Yeah,
being
that's
able to
nice.
do anything about it. Anyway, it's worth seeing. We should probably wrap. I know that you've got things to do today, I
Yeah.
expect. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I have to finish my composition because after that I'm gonna see my music teacher. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I have a music teacher as well. I do vocal stuff with her to sort of process the grief surrounding my father's death. Okay.
Oh,
Well, thank you again.
thank you.
Signing
It
off.
was nice.
And thank everyone who stopped by. Really appreciate all
Thank you
y'all.
guys.
End here. There we go.